Happy New Year. A very good afternoon from a sunny Botswana. And I can see Doug. Doug, it was nice with the video because we can see you in a sunny place, which we know England is cold. So it's nice to see you having some sunshine. And your background is beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. Where are you?
So we're near Liverpool.
That looks really nice. Where the grannies? I hope they're joining us. It's beautiful. I hope the grandkids will join us.
Not
So
today. Couldn't join this, but I'm gonna go see him tonight. So
awesome. That'd be nice. Yes. So we have Godlive, we have Sebastian, and we warmly welcome all our viewers. If you are listening from Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, we warmly welcome you and we're very happy to have you. This is a very exciting time where we're going to be speaking about something that has been a pain to a lot of learners and educators across the globe. So we're talking about literacy and diving deep into English. So this is an international language. It's a medium of communication. It's widely spoken across the globe, but we still have a lot of challenges with English in Africa. So we're excited to have Douglas, our author of our books, STEM Zen, who has advanced his skills, his expertise, and ensured that we can have our educators getting to understand what is so complicated about the English language, the Queen's language, as we call it. How can we ensure that our kids learn it with ease? Because, of course, it's a challenge. If you can't express yourself in English, then it becomes difficult for you to transition into others. And yes, I know we are going through the transition of where we're emphasizing on the use of mother tongue. And a lot of African countries have risen to the occasion where now we have sort of made mandatory the first language the child should learn should be their mother tongue. Yet we know kids can speak up to, is it 5 or 7 languages before the age of 7? I think they're just wired differently. We have experts here. We have Godlove, who is super smart in that space, and we have Sebastian. And I'm happy to see we have Ramon. Good to see you, Sir Ramon. Very nice to have you here, all the way from Philippines. I hope you'll come on stage and tell us something. So for our viewers, you're logging in from whichever platform. Please comment and tell us where you're logging in from. Tell us how you're ushering in the new year. And you can tell us how English is doing in your space, in your schools, in your communities. So I'm just going to get straight to giving Douglas the mic to introduce the topic and start taking us through. Thank you. Over to you, Doug.
so happy to be joining you from England. Usually it's from Seattle. We do have a little bit of blue sky today. So I'm gonna be turning off the camera just to save the bandwidth. I've got a little bit of background music too that I can't do anything about, but we'll do the best we can. So excited to be here with you. This little bit of background, we started out with doing science books, and because so many people from around the world were downloading them, they said, hey, we love your science, but you need to teach us and help us with English as well. And so we said, sure. And so that's been the background. Those of you who haven't checked out the STEM Zen program with the science, please go check that out. But this is about we're going to do about 2 half-hour segments, depending how many questions and answers that we have. And we want to the purpose of this is to give a background into English. And so this started when my kids were young. And my daughter's in her 30s now, so it's been 3 decades that this has been going on. We're so excited to share this with you. We'd really like to get your feedback, but let's press through. 0 is an introduction. It's meant to be the basics. We'll cover it very fast. You can get copies from the ebooks and the videos from Ms. Sally and from Sebastian. And let's go ahead and start with the presentation, Ms. Sally, if we could. We could screen through it. So we're doing the introduction to English, which is 0. it's beginning with, because those of your students or those who want to learn that already have the basics can skip this one. But we're going to go over what the goal is. We're going to talk about some main points, some simple points to cover, keywords, concepts, videos, rules and breakers, and then we'll get into some of the sounds, sentences, and why are we doing this? Because we tell stories. So if there's no other questions, let's just press right on, please. There's 10 topics in this discussion, and so we cover those. The purpose of this program is to help all those. Okay, you can see the 10. We're going to do 0 and 1 today, and we'll have 4 additional sessions to cover these, and there'll be some other ones if you're interested. So please leave comments for Ms. Sally if you have questions or comments. And anytime, this is meant to be a dialogue and a discussion. So let's just press right on and let's get started with 0, because we're going to press through it quickly just in case it's new. But we want to help people. We want people to be comfortable with English. And so Zen is English. It just means to be comfortable with something. So we call it ZEN-English or ZEN-English, it's also called. And we want everyone to be comfortable with English. Next page, please. So we're talking about 0 and 1. 0 is the introduction. The main points are, we like to give those who are getting into the lesson an overview of what we're talking about. And for those of you for the science, remember, we love the one-page summaries. And so this is all about introduction. It's meant very basic. Some of it, for those who speak English already, it'll be basics, but we're going to go over the sounds, how sounds becomes words, words become sentences. We talk about rules, and there's 10 rules we'll be talking to that just give us help with what helps English make sense. And when we're reading, to help us understand the sounds and the words. But all rules have breakers, right? And so English doesn't always follow the same rules. And when we get into the different parts of the presentation, we'll talk about where English comes from and how different languages, how the Vikings, right, how the Romans, how the French, how the Vikings all came over to England. And as they did, they each left their own parts in the language. But let's just press right on. We're looking at the main points. We're going to talk about sounds, sentence, signs. So the signs are the letters. We're going to talk about the sounds and the sentences. A lot of people wonder why English isn't consistent like Spanish or some of the other languages. If you can say the word in Spanish, you can spell it. Not so in English. There's lots of reasons for that. But letters stand for sounds. Letters join to make words. Words make sentences. So we always want to start with what are the key words we're going to talk about. And as you go back through this slower at your own pace, please feel free to look at dictionary.com or OED from the Oxford and look at online. From the concepts, we're going to, the letters make sounds, right? This is in the ebook. You can go through the details, but it's good to have a grounding of what the concepts are. Next page, please. Two of the sounds that give most English people the hardest time are R and TH. And as luck would have it, TH actually used to be 2 different kinds of letters in English, but it makes 2 different sounds. A blow sound like 3 and thumb, or a buzz sound like the, this and that, father, mother. And so we want to help the new readers practice the R sounds and the TH sounds. And most native English speakers are amazed when they realize that the TH sound used to be 2 different written letters. So some sounds to keep in mind as we go through this. So there is a video associated with this. So I encourage you all to get a copy from Miss Sally or Mr. Sebastian or Mr. Godlive. And let's have you can go through this at your own speed, stop and rewind as necessary. Thanks and a shout out to Mr. Ramon for making that video. So well done, Mr. Ramon. So next, please. We talked about rules. Okay, so right now in 0, we're going to go over that there are 10 different rules that we're going to be talking about in English. But the point we're making here is there are rules, like we'll give an example of a silent E at the end of the word makes a vowel say its name, like the word name. But the same thing like have, doesn't follow that. So that's a breaker. So we talk about rules and we talk about breakers. Rules help us read, but we understand there are breakers. So let's just go through quickly without spending a lot of time on the basics, but A, face, E, see, I, ice, O, no, U, blue. That's the vowels that say their names. And so we start with the basics, and then we also know that there's going to be other vowels that don't say their names, right? But let's start with the notes, and we help everyone understand where vowels say their names, because those are the easy ones, right? Are there any questions or comments? We're just going to press on.
I think we can keep going for now.
In addition, it's a little confusing in English, but the same letter A makes different sounds, for example, right? And so you can use a line over the vowel to make it say its name, or it's a little curly Q letter that means it's a different sound. So you have to just learn that it can be, instead of a name, it's a pet, right? On, in, up. And so the vowels, even though it's written the same, make a different sound. And it's just something we have to get used to in English. And so we spend some time with those who need the help with the vowel sounds. And the next thing we learn about is, being here in England, I have the one with the accent, of course, right? And so you learn very quickly that different countries pronounce words differently. It's okay. This is based on one form of English, but we're open to all. There is a book, the ebook available on this that has all this detail in it that you can get from Ms. Sally. So we want to get through the first one real quick here so we can spend more time on the second one. Once we've learned the concept, we'd really like to open it up and hear a group chat, right? We'd really like to have everyone have an input to it. But during the chat, or a chance for the team to get together and talk about this, we talk about, it's kind of like a secret, right? That letters make words and how they join together. We talk about how words make sentences, and sentences have different punctuations, different signs at the ends, right? But sentences are building blocks for books. We practice sounds consistently. And so every time we say a word, letters, makes, words, we're practicing the sounds as well. But in addition to the two vowel sounds that we covered, there are more, right? Like oi and toy, or and bird. And so as we read, so where we're going with all this, I hope you're hanging on to this ride here a little bit, is that once we have the basics, then the whole point of this program is to use simple stories that practice English words, and then use those words in a simple story that makes sense, and then read it together, read it by yourself, right? Practice the words, look up the words you don't know. So that's what the group chat is to get together and actually use the English, speak it. So no more questions. Let's press on, please. Okay, letters themselves also blend together to make new sounds. And so those of us who speak English, it's fun to just take a pause and say, the C and the H together make cha, chair, free, plane, shoes, tree. And so look at these, three, for example. Look at the different examples as we go through all this in English. So again, lesson 0 is just laying the groundwork. When we get into lesson 1, we're actually going to go through and use one of the stories. So all this is leading to us for greater skills. And I've had classes where they'll say, this is too basic at the beginning. I said, okay, well, just go through it with me, right? And then we go through it. They went, I'm glad we went back through it. I understood a lot of it, but it was a good review, and it's a very good basic to make sure that we're moving forward all together, right? But we've talked about sounds that the letters make, right? We skipped over quickly that there are certain letters, the vowels, right? So zeros, we're introducing the recap. So after we've gone through the lesson, we just like to make sure that we haven't lost anybody. And so we want the students that are far ahead, we want to make sure we give them something advanced to continue on. More vocabulary to look at. The students that need to go back, that was too fast, we need to go back and we need to spend the time. We like to point out that letters are like glue, right? That hold the words together. And so a lot of people have fun with that. A lot of times we'll put letters on building blocks and build things. So you're building words at the same time. You're physically building a simple building out of blocks as you're building the words to make the point. So any questions or comments about this? This is very fast. We told you it's going to be a fire hose, but words make sentences. Sentences have meanings. This is the basics to make sure they're all on the same page. So we call this lesson 0 so that we can move on. So are there any questions or comments?
Let me see if Sebastian or Godlove, you have questions, but I would love to ask one, Doug. Would you use the same, would you introduce somebody who is, let's say, an adult learning English for the first time with the same concept?
We struggled with adults, to be frank with you, and that is some of them say this is too kiddish, this is too little, right? Too young. And then and most of those were American. And then we tried. They were like, "What is this? This is too easy." And we're like, "Understand the concepts." But many of our English as a second language learners like the simplicity, like how they can come back and they can practice the vowel sounds, like how they can go back and get the basics right before they go on and get, because English is a wonderful language. It's the language of Shakespeare. Shakespeare used 30,000 letters to write his books, right? And it's wonderful and it's expressive, but you don't need to know 30,000 words to speak basic English, right? You don't start out learning English by reading Shakespeare. And so that's the point we make, is we want to make it fun. We want to make it interactive. We want to make it as simple as possible to start out with. Just like science, we start with the simple and then we build to it, right? Start with the basics and then we build. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And I see we have a question from Alan Anthony. What is science in language? How can sound be a language?
So sound, let's take a step back, right? So scientists think back, the very first people used sign language. They talked with their hands and they would point with their hands. And then people learned how to make tools and their hands were busy. So then they started using sounds. So sounds, right? Sounds then turn into words. And so I want to make sure I understand your question, Alan. Can you repeat the question, please, there, Miss Sally?
It's what is science in language and how can sound be a language?
Okay, by sound language, I really don't understand your question, Alan. Sorry about that. I don't think I understand it. Sound is the basic of the words for the meanings, right? We take the sounds and we give them meanings that are assigned to letters that we can read, but you can read the letters aloud as a sound, right? If Alan could help us a little better understand his question, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, but I think so far I'm a little bit confused as well. But I think what you've explained about what is science in language just simply makes sense. Maybe he'll get more clarity or he will ask his question in a different way as we move on. Sebastian and good luck.
Maybe, yeah,
Let me know. Okay.
maybe, yeah. What I wanted just to add to the question, and probably what he or she meant about the science in language is maybe um, the involvement of those organs that are involved in articulation, in thinking, the organs that are involved in when we have speech. That's why you want to include science in language. That, for example, we have the vocal tracts, we have those utterances like the lyrics, the larynx, for diaphragm. So when we involve those things with the language, actually, we produce a sound which is connected to those, like like an elevator through the language that should be produced. That's why I wanted to connect with the science, with the language, that you cannot separate language and science, because even the brain, there's a lot of aphasia, part. The venicles aphasia, we have the venicles and what is, I think, the other kind of aphasia, where those things are always on critical thinking, and those involve I mean, those organs are involved in a speech production. That's what I want to maybe add whatsoever he was trying to ask the question. Thank you.
I think you nailed it. I think that's great. If you look at the science, right? I missed that part in the question. Basic, you take brain waves and neurons and engrams, right? A basic thought, and then you are able to take that thought from that thought from our minds to our vocal cords, and then through the shaking of the vocal cords, you shake the air, right, that then travels to the person's ear, right? And so that is the audible part of the parts you hear from the language. And then we just take that and we write it down. So I think it's an interesting question. We'd appreciate any feedback on how we can explain that question better. Anyone else have anything about how do we, to Miss Sally's question, how do we teach basic English effectively? How do we teach basic English effectively? Anyone want to
Hello.
chime?
Thank you, everyone. God love Shami, and I just want to add some inputs on how we can teach English effectively. From my experience, English can be taught through activities like when we engage a set of activities and connect with the English language using it as a catalyst, as a medium of giving some instructions, because uh, getting to know simple instruction using language creatively, like using those simple vocabulary, will help a learner to be the real foundations and putting some cognitive understanding in the brain and memory, because it's just a matter of learning language and getting to communicate, but again, to remember some practical functions that human being or a learner can be doing in the beginning. That's my contribution and my input.
Mr. Goodlove, that was excellent. Thank you so much. So we'd like to finish this discussion on lesson 0 here in about 2 minutes, because we want to get right on to lesson 1, right? So one comment I'd like to make is it's always been important with the new learners that I work with that they understand why they're learning English, why it's a benefit to their lives, why it takes hard work, right? So anyone have any comments on why learn English? Okay, if no other comments, let's go ahead and go to class 1, if we could, please. So Robin tries. So we're going to cover the same agenda where we go through the main points, talk about some simple points, and keywords, concepts, videos, rules, and breakers. We're going to talk more about say name vowels and other vowels. We're going to actually read the book this time, so that's going to take a little more time. It's a short book. We go through it, we read it, and then we'll talk about the group chat and then some of the skills we get, like letters plan. So are there any questions before we start?
No, I think we can start.
Okay, next page, please. So it's a simple story about Robin, and there's an example about as we learn a language like English, we have to try, right? And so we want to. I just spilled my water. little flood here. So let's go to the next page, please. All right, so we're going to talk about a short story called Robin Tries, and it's very, very simple. We try to use brand new words, right, that are new to people, but we want to use them in fun, exciting ways. And so we are going to talk about a robin is a type of bird, for those of you who may not know it, or in countries that don't have robins. And people in the West like robins because they always return when spring comes back. So people like robins. So they're very, very popular. But we're going to talk about a robin that is in a nest and can't fly. It studies, it tries, and it can finally fly. And we talk about how it can see things differently. And then we take a pause moment and learn about English and how English is the same, right? English takes us to know why we want to learn English, to study, to try, to fly, and to once we learn English, then it opens up so much more knowledge that we can get access to. So we have new views. So there's no questions. The key word here is try. We're going to talk about nouns, describers, and actions. So a noun is a person, place, or thing, right? So a robin bird is a noun. Describer is red, right? The red bird. What is the bird doing? It's flying. That's the verb. That's the action. So if we can keep these three parts of speech, three parts of English in mind as we're reading, it helps us understand more about English and as we are getting the context to us. These are the key words. We're not going to go through all of them, but to really understand the book, we need to make sure that the learners know these words. Okay? So what are the concepts? Well, we talked about how what is a word, right? We want to make sure that people understand the letters, that they understand what they mean, and the sounds the letters make. Then we need to understand that we put the letters together and they mean something. So a group of letters, and a word is something like a noun, or it does something like a verb, the action. And so some people love calling them those. Some people just like to know about the concepts. But it's important to understand the different parts of speech as we do the words. So next page, please. So we have a lot of fun with the students on the action words, right? We after we read it, we have the students try to act out the flying and the flapping, right? And the asking, and sometimes when we get into the turtle jumps, the falling, right? Or the jumping. And so we want to have fun with the students when they're reading the books. We read it seriously, we practice the words, but especially the younger students that are maybe learning English for the first time, they get a little frustrated, and we get up and we act out the action words. But after that, we take a pause and we talk about, but English is so full and so rich where we are able to talk about blue sky and tall trees, right? Stormy weather, right? Energetic, right? Activities, that English is so full of life, and we want to make sure that point comes across. Next, please. Okay, so this is going to be a little difficult because it's our first one. If anyone else wanted to read, I'd be happy to. Any volunteers to read this? Miss Sally?
Sebastian, do you want to go? Or Godlove? You know, I love my voice. Okay.
I just recommend one of you volunteer to read it, please. It'll just take 2 minutes. I think everybody on the podcast would appreciate hearing somebody else's voice and just mine.
Thank you. Is it nicely visible on your side?
Well, looks a little
Doug?
bit. It doesn't look better in my side.
Me too, which is a
Me
bit
too. Better.
right because I should, but I can read it. It doesn't look very clear on my side when I'm using this, but I can go to the actual document just in a minute. That was page. Doug, what page are we on? You can all hear me, right?
Yes, we do hear you.
Let me just get on the page now. I've tried to enlarge it, but it's still not very clear. Yeah, now
Yeah.
this is much
Page 20,
better.
page 28, 28.
So I can read now. Still a small font, but I can read it. May I try English too? Robin says that, right? But I'm afraid. I see my best friends fly. I think about flying. I want to try to fly. I study how to fly. I jump from the green tree. I fly very fast. I can fly. Wow. Am I supposed to animate my talking? Doug, I'm trying. Should I animate it a little bit more? Then I fly up in the blue sky. I see a beautiful world below. I fly to new places. I fly high in the clear sky. English is like flying. One, study. Two, try two. Three, keep trying. Stick with one. Robin learns to try to fly. I learned to try English too. This is beautiful. This would be so. We should have invited some kids to be a part of this. I'm done. Did I do a good job, teacher? Doug, are you there? We lost Doug.
Yeah, I think we lost Douglas. Yeah, but I want to jump in and say that thank you so much, Ms. Kim, for reading and bring the reading Robin Tree's, story. It seems like it's a simple story that can be extracted from this reading, starting from the one that you read and the action that has been going, flying, trying. Those are the verbs that I see in a story with the Robin, and I'm excited actually to see how we can create these simple stories for our kids, uh, with the level they are, maybe in class 1, class 2, or elementary level. Kids should be taught these simple stories, and from these simple stories we can develop, the bigger stories into context, and have a really huge compiled stories as they grow up with the story. So thank you so much when you read this.
I hope I tried. I was trying to animate and sound like a teacher for for preschool, right? This is, I would give this year 5, 7, right? Sebastian?
Sure, sure.
Like the age of 5, 6, 7 years old kids, right? Sounds like
Miss
beginners.
Allen,
Like
can you hear
Yeah,
me?
even when the place where
okay,
I'm, even Tanzania, even Tanzania, the place that I come from. Well, I
yeah.
mean, level 6, level 4 can still use this kind of construction and make their stories. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Doug. I think you're back. I read the page, the Robin tries. So maybe we can move on to the next page.
So some of the key points. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for some of the internet challenges being on the road, but we read through the story to the children, that kid, those that are learning the English. If they can read it themselves and practice, that's wonderful, right? Sometimes we'll have small teams of kids get together and help each other, right? Read through it, but the words are small enough that hopefully it's clear. The other key point we make is, as the new learners learn the English, don't worry about every syllable and every word. Focus on what's the story, what's being said, because that skill is so important when we get into conversations, right? Over in London yesterday, we saw a lot of people that were very new to English and they were struggling, right? And so we say, look, it's okay, right? When you speak another language, you get very understanding to others that are learning to learn new languages like English. And we just say, what's the main point? What are you trying to get across? And so when we learn to read, if we could look at what's the main points and just like the basics, what's the main points to the story, then you can add to it, as opposed to get focused on, oh, I don't know what the word robin means. Well, then you just lost the whole story. But it's like, okay, it's a simple story about a bird, right? Okay, and this is what happens to it. So any questions or comments from the team, please? No worries. I'll just keep going. So There is a video on this. So after the book has been read multiple times, individually to the students, individually in teams, then we watch the video. And again, compliments to Mr. Ramon put the video together. But there's some key points we want to focus on now, and that's English has rules, right? There are many letters that only make one sound. A B makes a B sound, right? A, a K, well, K is a funny one, right? An M makes an M sound. But then you have to realize that there are some funny letters like C, K, and S that are oddballs. C can make a K sound, right? Like cake and car, or C can make an S sound like city or CD or center, right? And then S. And just a quick data point, one of the famous Americans a couple hundred years ago, Benjamin Franklin, he was a printer, and he said, look, we don't need C's and K's, and we're just only going to have, or sorry, we don't need to have C. We're only going to have K or an S. We're not going to have C's. And he tried to not use C's, but the people wouldn't go for it. So we still have C's. So sorry about that. And how funny it is that we say the first three letters A, B, C, but it's A, B, S, right? C, right? It makes the C sound. Back to the science of sounds. So next page, please. So I would like to open it up to Mr. Sebastian and Mr. Godlive, especially to others, just for the group chat, right? Let's talk about the simple story. Let's talk about how do we use stories to teach English. Sebastian, Mr. Sebastian or Mr. Godlive?
Thank you, Douglas. In my class, we really use stories in teaching language, especially we used to compose very simple stories, and we use the method of storytelling and trying to really demonstrate things. Maybe they can be imaginary things or the real things which happen in their normal life. For example, you can give the story of a cow and flowing water, and through that, the students, they can listen first to the story which a teacher has been telling, and at the end, we start now together analyzing the story. What's the main point? What the ethics point, or what is the real meaning of the story which has been told by a teacher. So storytelling, we can see, really construct the ancient story or current stories, but the storytelling is real way and a powerful ways of teaching language, especially to young kids or the elementary students. Thank you.
Excellent.
Just to add a little bit, Douglas, I also have the same class. I have class of kids where I've been teaching them, we call it 1 word, 2 words, and 3 words memoir. So what I do, I can tell kids to get out and come with 1 word, like, what do you see outside? Maybe a word that you can just collect, because collection of words is maybe a tree, a sky, a stone. Now I bring them in the classroom, I say, can you tell me more about the tree? What happened to the tree? Or what about the sky? What's happened? What are there? Now we develop stories from what they see outside, back the classroom, then they develop stories. So then next time I change from 1 word to 2 words, and next time I just bring the 3 words. So that's how we develop stories, and kids are very funny. They get outside the college word and come back in the classroom, and then we make stories. That's how I expand. We call it the memoir stories, and very interesting in my classroom. Thank you.
That's excellent examples. Thank you for those. If I could take just a quick pause moment, and I'm hoping that others online will join in, but I like to take a pause with the learners and say, yes, it takes practice. Yes, there's some pain. Yes, there's some effort involved, but why? And then so many of the young people now being on the train going into London yesterday, it was all these people watching their smartphones, all watching TikTok and Facebook, right? And YouTube and others. And it's like everything about that is a story. And the reason it's so interesting, right? Those who love movies, right? How you go to the movie theater, you stream it. Stories are all about how we experience our lives, and we understand the stories better when we understand the English words involved with them. And it's fun to take the pause and relate English to directly to the people, right? And it's the other lesson we have fun even with younger kids is we'll give some examples of words in the past, right? When I was growing up, something was groovy or way cool, right? And today the younger generation uses different words to describe the same emotions, right? And how smartphones have added to the vernacular, to the words we use. But we take a pause and say, computers have only been around, but 40-ish years, really starting to be personal computers anyway. And before that, all the words that we use with computers didn't exist, right? We had to come up with input, output, download, right? Stream, right? All these things that we've added to English because of what we've done with computers. So, Miss Sally, are there any questions or comments, please?
No, thank you. Just brings in a lot of clarity. Like, I think you can transform anyone to become a good teacher. The teacher
Appreciate
is
that.
teachers.
So,
Yeah.
Sir Ramon, are you still on? Don't want to put you on the spot, but if you could just share some highlights of how you take a script with the words and how you turn it into a video. Just like to share that, like making the book Robin Flies, right? Talk. Just give us a couple of headlines, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. What I do for Mr. Douglas is like, for example, he's given me the script for a story of a video that he wanted me to do. What I do is, from the script, I think about what Mr. Douglas wants to convey with the audience, and I find particular specific video clips which I think will help amplify or uh, communicate the message of the story of what Mr. Douglas wants to build the story upon, or the storyboard of the story, or the video I am making. So following the script of Mr. Douglas, I assemble it into a video or an ebook to help convey the specific story of what Mr. Douglas wants to convey. I think I don't know that, but that's what you wanted me to say, sir.
Excellent, Sir Ramon. Really appreciate it. It's a perfect lead in, right? So Ms. Sally's telling me all the time that we need to make sure we get art into all these things we're doing, right? So in the science and in English as well. And so I wanted to share an example of a class activity that we used. And that was, we had students go on their own and draw a colorful picture. And then we put them in a pile and we pulled it out, and we had the class try to guess what was going on, right? And then we gave the pictures back to the student, and we'd already had the permission forms ahead of time for the students. A couple of parents didn't want to, but once we had a couple of parents come in and do the videotaping, but taping their child talking about the picture. And so it was able to make a picture go into multimedia, but it was so fun to then get words associated with the picture, and then we would give the video to them, have them go write the story, and then put the highlights of the story written on the back of the picture, and then we would go through them again and hand them out again. And people could see how the first time it was just a picture, we missed the point, right? Maybe I'm not a very good artist. Hopefully there are those on that are, but there were a lot of things missed of what was meant by the artist originally. But when the artist could come and explain their story, and we videotaped it, and then just with the smartphone, then we gave that file to them, let them watch it, and then they wrote down the story, then people could convey the meanings. And it just is a way to communicate. That's everything we're doing here with English, is to go through the words, to be able to communicate our thoughts, to communicate with others, to communicate back from others. That's a real fun classic example that we've used before. So questions or comments from the team?
Maybe I can just add that Mr. Ramon, you're doing a very good job. Your videos are beautiful, and it makes it much easier for learners to understand when you're combining the actual book and the video. Thank you.
Thank
We're
you,
lucky,
Miss Sally.
we're lucky to have you, Sir Ramon. Okay, we pick a skill for each one of the 10 lessons, and this one is about reading English. And so we take a pause moment. We've read through Robin Tries multiple times, right? We've met as teams, we've watched the video, we've gone over the key concepts, and now we just talk about reading in general. And we take a brief digression in one of the classes, and we were talking about some of the cave art. In the western part of the US, the Native Americans in the past would create pictures in the stones, and so a lot of them are still there, and they're 1,000 years old or whatever, right? And you got the caves in Spain and in France that are tens of thousands of years old, aren't they? So where they're pictures, but it was a way for people to communicate, right? But we use English to communicate our thoughts and back, and so we try to help give the kids basic, and I say kids, but it's actually a lot of English as a second language learners out there. They want the basics. They want to be able to use these simple stories to make sure they speak English better. And that's the whole purpose we're trying to do here, right? Is to help people. So that we go over we recap all the different topics that we talked about, right? Words to nouns to describe words. And then I love describe words because you can put so much energy into with the action verbs and the verbs. And then you bring back, right? And you get someone that really likes to talk, one of the outgoing students, and they can talk about describing a situation or an emotion or an event that happened, right? And then another activity we've done is to take words on pieces of paper, and then you put them together to make sentences like, right, the red bird flies, and then you mix them up, right? And you've got a different colored bird, and it's not doing flying, it's running, or it's jogging, or trying. And so you take the same words and you put them together in different ways just to help students to realize that that's what we're going to do with English. That once we've learned the word, we can use it and it becomes ours. And we can put it together in different ways to express the way we're feeling. Mr. Sebastian or Mr. Godlive, any comments on that, please?
Well, I think I don't have any comment, but I really love how you know, simplicity of the work that you brought. I have, you know, young kids at home. These are my kids. I think these are the things that actually they should learn. But I was really, I think it's a confusion or something that is brought by uh, the kids who are born with many languages. Like you find the kids have two languages or three languages. When it's come to English, they sometimes confuse the sounds. For example, here I've been teaching kids, and so many times struggling with the sound. You spoke of the sound S, the sound three, those affricative sounds, fricative sounds, and sometimes the sort of plosive, like I mean those rhotic sounds like R and even Lo sounds, L sounds. So with a native speaker of some sort of ethnic languages, kids sometimes confuse, and we get time to kind of correct them to speak a little bit well, to speak fluent and eloquent, even teach them to utter, like how to pronounce the word k and the sound s. So those are things I'm learning right now, and we have a lot of tasks to do. Thank you.
That's an excellent comment, and it leads me to there was another classroom where we had some students that English was the second language in a class full of native English speakers. And the teacher had confided in me that some of the students were not being very kind to the English as a second language. And so we had them all come together, and without singling out any of the kids, we said, we're going to talk about languages, and then we're going to talk about English. But first, we're going to talk about some other languages. And I speak Thai. And so I said, I'm going to teach you a few Thai sounds. And it's a fruit that they say the foreigners can't say. And it's called ngok. It's just hard to say, but it's hard to say. And that was the point. And so we had other students from different languages come in and talk about it. And some of the sounds, and everybody in the room couldn't say the sounds, right? And then we talked as an example about, hey, it's okay to keep trying. These people are learning languages, right? You can't speak their language. They're trying to learn English. Let's be patient. Let's help each other. And it made the children much more empathetic to the other learners who are trying to learn a language for the second time. So I think it's learning a second language is great for all of us. So it's been a lot of fun today. I think we're a little early, but I think that's all I had for this presentation. We could open it up to the team, please. You want to, that'd be great.
Sorry, did I interrupt?
Please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was requesting, can I play a little bit of the video?
I think that'd be a great idea.
Cool.
Start English. I learn letters.
Welcome to Intro to English.
I start English. I learn letters A, B, C, D. Letters make sounds. I say the ABCs.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me?
There are two ways to write letters. Small letters are called lowercase. Big letters are called capitals. Capital letters are also called uppercase. T. I tried the letter T. Cat tells time. R. I tried the letter R. Red rat reads. These special letters are vowels. Often, vowels say their names, like this. A in face, E in sea, I in ice, O in no, U in blue. I try more say name vowels.
A, ape, cape. E, bee, sneeze. Achoo! I, kite, bite. Arr! O, bone, phone. U, cute, fruit.
Often, vowels make other sounds too. A in at, E in pet, I in, O in on, U in up. I try more vowels.
A, glad, dad. Egg, leg. I, pig, wig. Frog, log. Fun, sun.
Next, letters blend to make new sounds too. Bull, blend. Bull, blue. Bull, blow. I try more blends. Bl, blue. Ch, chew. Sh, shoe. Here are three more blends. Ch, chair. Fur, free. Pl, flame. TH letters make two sounds. One, blow, like in three, thumb, mouth, map. These words blow TH. Two, buzz, like in the, this, that, father, mother. These words buzz TH. Next, we see a few more sounds. A secret and a surprise. Short U makes the common A sound. Up, fun, run. I try more sounds. A, father. Bird. Oi, toy. I say these sounds too. R, car. Or, corn. Sh, shoe. Tr, tree. Here is a secret. Letters link to make words. Vowels are like glue. They join letters into words. Here is a surprise. Words make books. Words are building blocks for books. I like to build with blocks. I like to learn with fun books too. Books are fun. With this book, I learn English, letters, and sounds. This book is now over. The end. But my English is just starting. I use English every day.
See the catalog for more Alfred books.
Was
Miss
that
Sally,
nice?
thank you for playing that. Compliments and a shout out to Sir Ramon and his family members that were making that video. They did the audio as well. So well done. Questions and comments from the team, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon. You do a very good job. They're beautiful and very clear.
Miss Sally, I just want to point out that this is all Mr. Douglas. He has a very great talent of making things fun to read or fun to watch, or his scripts are that good.
Oh, that's
Sir Ramon,
beautiful.
it's a team effort, and we sincerely appreciate all you do. Thank you. We've got
Sebastian?
just a couple of minutes. Is there any other comments on anyone online, please?
Thank you so much, Douglas and Sally. This is very useful session where we can really develop some simple strategies on learners, and to some people in the community here in Tanzania. Thank you, Douglas and Sally. This was very powerful and session. We really thank you for uh, adding us and the inputs that we have taken from this session. We're really going to use in our classroom. In Tanzania, English is not it's not only a second language. It's just a second language to some people, but other people have the other languages and from their background. So getting to know how to teach sounds and forming some simple words which they can make sentence and develop language skills, it was a lot for us. So thank you, and we are real eager joining the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Miss Sally, I got one last quick comment, please. And that is just thank you to everyone involved. Sincerely appreciate your comments. If you got any improvements, any ways that we can learn how to teach this easier, please let us know. It's important to realize we live in an interesting time as artificial intelligence, AI, is becoming more and more a powerful tool, right? And those of you in the science, remember we talked about the AI. But learning English, imagine a world where we all have a common language so we can communicate. I think it's more important now, more than ever, right? That we can communicate together and work together as these big changes in technology are coming. Thank you so much. Look forward to next Saturday. Miss Sally, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Big thank you, all our listeners, our speakers, Mr. Ramon, Mr. Sebastian, Mr. Godlove, our listeners from all the platforms. I can see Kasara, Zeno, Alan, and I saw quite a number of others on LinkedIn and YouTube. We appreciate your presence. We'll only request you humbly. This is every Saturday session. So we're here again next Saturday, 4 p.m. South African time and 5 p.m. East Africa time. And what we're looking into is ensuring that as many children as possible can be able to access these tools, be it in form of audiobooks or printed materials. So spread the word. We constantly look for sponsors. We've been able to print quite a few, and we've been spreading them out, distributing within communities in Botswana. Would love to do that in each and every part of the continent. and more especially to the marginalized communities. Thank you. Please do reach out. You can reach out to Sebastian and Mr. Goodlove. You can reach out to me. We can help you on how you can access these resources within the continent. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you and
Thank you very
goodbye.
much. Bye, Miss Sally.
Thank you.